Welcome back, adventurers. This is the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. I'm getting into the spooky season mood. Lotus, I'm feeling it. The weather's starting to get a little bit cooler, even here in Florida. Get this. This week, we had a day where the high hit 85 degrees.
Wow.
I know.
So in New England, it's now that it's like actually technically fall or autumn. Leaves are getting all multicolored and stuff. But the weird thing is the mornings here are like, ooh, it definitely feels like fall. And then the afternoons are 85 degrees and still super humid. So I'm like, oh, all right. So we're just going to do both seasons at once this year. Got it.
It's just double season. Yes.
We just get both.
Child of Sithis. Yes. We basically live in the swamp. All the trees look drippy and stuff. And they don't change. The trees here don't change color until like April. And then they're very confused. They get very confused. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. This is the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. This is the show where we talk about this is the show where we talk about all of the interesting and strange lore that happens, because that's what we've been talking about lately. Over the summer, we've been covering all of the weird and wacky lore in the Elder Scrolls. And I'm your host, Tom or Robots. This is Lotus of Doom, also from Tales of Tamriel. Lotus, other than the weather, how have you been?
I've been doing very good, and actually since last show, we've had some big news for Elder Scrolls Online players. And then from my own perspective, after a long trek of something that I had been working on, which turned into something else, I got what is called a Griffin Heart with my trial team, which is doing the veteran Cloud Rest hard mode without anybody on my team dying in less than 15 minutes. So I get to now be satisfied that is behind me, because it started as a different project and finally ended on Monday with massive success.
Wow, that's fancy. That's some fancy stuff.
That was a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a long time coming.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very pleased. I actually didn't think we were ever going to manage that. It originally was designed just to get the fancy skin out of the trial, but then we decided to stick with it. So
nice. Yeah. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. That's really cool.
So, and shout out to the Empty Soul Gems, which is the name of my group.
The Empty Soul Gems. That's great. That's really cool. Well, I'm excited because we're going to be covering the second half of our Dragon Breaks episode. We covered so we've split this up. Friends, we've split this up into the official as you can get content that was mentioned on the UESP.net article, UESP.com. Wait a minute. Am I forgetting what the UESP extension is? UESP.net. Okay, it's right. I was right.
You got it.
I was right. Okay. Yeah. My brain was like, wait a minute, is it .com? Because that site is the go-to site. If you're looking for actual input for what is actually in the texts, go to UESP.net. That is going to be the most factual you can possibly get. But there are other wikis on the internet, and there are things that the UESP.net articles leave out about Dragon Breaks that a lot of people refer to from Dragon Breaks. And I believe that the UESP.net articles are only referencing things that we actually have hard and fast information in the game's hard and fast references to. But of course, with the Elder Scrolls lore, there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of other things going on that point to things being probable without necessarily being hard and fast references. Right. So there are some other references for Dragon Breaks, and that's what we're going to get to in this episode, because we only have so much time in an episode, and Dragon Breaks are a really big topic. So today we're going to dive into some of the other probable Dragon Breaks that we didn't cover in the last episode. And then in the second half of this episode, we're going to talk about some of the things coming to Elder Scrolls Online, because we love Elder Scrolls Online and we're freaking excited about it, because we're going to get more stuff about Deadlands coming. We're going to be going back to Oblivion, basically.
Yep.
And this is, I love this stuff. I love when we get to go to the worlds of the Daedric princes and get to see more about those kinds of realms and things, because they're freaking cool and they're spooky. And speaking about spooky, it's almost Spooktember. We're right up on October, and this is like my favorite month of everything ever. And we've got that coming up, and we're on the verge of that, and we're coming up on our patron chat, which is next week. That'll be this coming Thursday. And Lotus, I'm putting together a quiz show. I've got another quiz game.
Oh yeah,
another quiz game, and this one is going to be. And I haven't quite set it up yet, but I've got the concept in my mind. And I think what I'm going to do is have the game be Elder Scrolls Quest or bad horror movie title.
You know, you might have missed your calling as like a game show designer, to be fair.
So this is going to be super fun. So if you are currently a patron, tier 4 patron or higher, then you don't want to miss out on this. You want to join us. And if there's a big group of us, not everyone who is at that level joins us every week. But if you can make it on Thursday night and you want to join us, if you're one of those tier 4 patrons or higher, come join us. If you aren't already a tier 4 patron and you want to join us this month, you can sign up just for this month if you'd like. You can, whatever, you can join us every month. Whatever you want to do, you're welcome to come join us. You can always just join us during the live show and just chime in the messages. But this is going to be super fun, and I'm going to quiz you guys and see if you can determine the difference between the name of some of the quests in the Elder Scrolls games, or is it just a really bad horror movie? Which one is it? It's going to be awesome. All right, so let's get into this because we've got some more Dragon Breaks to talk about. We covered what Dragon Break is, kind of the basic foundation for this concept last week. So if you missed last week's episode, go back and let's listen to that first. But Dragon Breaks. So we have some other topics here to talk about. Now, in the fandom.com wiki article, they bring up some that we didn't really cover last week. We have one that is called the Time Wound. Now, in this article, it says the Time Wound. Whether or not the Time Wound should actually be considered a Dragon Break is arguable. So this is on that precipice, right? This is the verge of like, is it or isn't it? Due to the event being described as shattered time. So this is why it's not included in the ESP.net article, because it's not quite called a Dragon Break. It is normally speculated to have been a break of smaller proportion. The Time Wound was formed in the later years of the Merithic era during the legendary Dragon War. At the peak of the Throat of the World, the first of the Nordic tongues attempted to slay the dragon god Alduin with the help of the mortal made shout known as Dragon Rend. This is the event that, as we know, potentially sent the dragons into the future, which turned into the events of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, where the dragons all of a sudden show back up in the world and everyone's like, I thought the dragons were gone, but I guess they're here now.
Yeah, but they're back.
But they're back, right?
Right. And I thought they were dead, or were they in hiding? I guess they're all just here again. And some of the ones that were dead were then resurrected. So
right.
It gets kind of weird.
It gets kind of weird. So the article goes on and says, with the help of the mortal made shout known as Dragon Rend, the three tongues were unable to defeat Alduin and instead turned to other means to end the World Eater's reign of terror. The eldest of the three, Feldir the Old, had brought in Elder Scroll with him, and he utilized its mysterious powers alongside the Thu'um. I love the Thu'um. Thu'um, because it's got the little U apostrophe U, to banish Alduin. The actions of Feldir created a small wound in time in the location where Alduin vanished, where it could remain until the present. This event has altered the Throat of the World in such a way that it has been said that its peak is no longer fully present within the world. It is possible that the Time Wound was indeed a Dragon Break and may have been responsible for the lack of knowledge regarding the period in which the Dragon War took place. So, a speculative Dragon Break.
Yeah, that one seems like it definitely could be. From my perspective, I don't see why that couldn't be, but at the same time, when you have time breaking, it gets a little hard to determine exactly definition wise what you consider what. So in this situation, it's like I could see you kind of like spinning it in a way that it's like, well, no, this wasn't technically a Dragon Break in terms of the Dragon Breaks that the others were, or you could, lump it together and be like, well, yeah, but I mean, time is theoretically not kind of working in the normal linear path that it would. So wouldn't you consider that a Dragon Break type of deal? And, all the events of Skyrim, be curious to see what happens going forward from Skyrim and the events of Elder Scrolls V, because we haven't progressed this timeline much more past that yet, which could lend credence to it being a Dragon Break specifically, or maybe not. You know what I mean? Like that still kind of almost remains to be seen. Is that sort of the end marker for the most part in the canon series to the moment?
Right. That's interesting when you think about it. Like, is this an extended Dragon Break that goes from that point in time and then breaks out of the time period and then loops back in the Fourth Era?
Right. And in regards to the, parts of the series that they've needed to work with so far when it deals with your choices and stuff like that, and a decent amount of it can be ambiguous enough that they don't need to specifically address you and your actions exactly. It's like, they're not going to bring up, hey, remember that one time this adventurer was roaming around and he killed these bandits in like this cave? It's like, okay, well, that's really not important enough that if you didn't do that in your game, or if you did do that in your game, it's kind of irrelevant. That just makes it your game, like your story from your game. The problem with, or the potential problem with how the Elder Scrolls V ends, I guess side quest spoilers for Skyrim. I don't really know if that's a disclaimer worth putting, but there it is.
There it is.
For the Dark Brotherhood, did you wipe out the Dark Brotherhood, or did you end up working with the Dark Brotherhood and carrying out the contract, which in the end results in the death of the Emperor?
Right.
Like, those are two vastly different things that can come about from that quest line. So is the Emperor alive after Skyrim or not? That's not a bandit dead in cave. Didn't kill him in the last game. It's okay. Is there an emperor or is there not an emperor currently? That's a little more impactful, and we don't have an answer to that just yet.
Right. So we're going to have to wait and see. Is do they canonize a very specific ending to that and specific events, or do they say this is all part of a Dragon Break? And in this case, do they say that this is all one Dragon Break that somehow connects two very distinct different points of time?
Right.
And I don't know that we've seen that before. Almost like a wormhole in time that connects the Merithic era to a very specific point in the Fourth Era, and those 2 points in time separate from the times between them.
Yep.
I suppose that could happen. I mean, any of this stuff could happen. Like maybe it's one very long Dragon Break that plants its feet in 2 locations in the time stream.
Yep. I mean, for that matter, the Dragon Break, to your point, might or might not even be continuing still. We could bumble into Elder Scrolls, the next Elder Scrolls game, Elder Scrolls 6, still in a Dragon Break, theoretically, or it could not have anything to do with it, and it's just like, this is just these things that happened, and it's totally fine. Everything's remembered, and everybody knows what's going on, and so there's a lot of unanswered questions about the potential of this being a break or not.
Right. And this actually butts up to the question about the warp in the West. And there's actually some articles that were published this last week, which I find really interesting and coincidental with the topic that we raised. In
Weird.
This comes up regularly. I think there are people. This podcast is large enough. We have a large enough audience that I think the people who are listening to our show are now publishing articles on some of the websites that we go to, because we might be spawning ideas in their heads.
Well, that's awesome, because I like hearing what other people's things are on this stuff. That's really cool if that's the case.
I think maybe we are all having conversations without actually having conversations with each other.
I'm very bad at ever typing out stuff that I talk about, so I'm glad somebody is, whether it relates to us or not.
Yeah, potentially. Okay, so I want to get to that one because that's the other most important one. So we're going to kind of breeze over some of these other ones fairly quickly. The other occurrences all have to do with the Numidium. And we talked about the Numidium in the previous episode. In fact, we've talked about the Numidium a lot during this Weird and Wacky series, because a lot of weird and wacky stuff happens in and around the concept of the Numidium, the big brass god that the Dwemer created. And there are the events of the Red, what is called the Red Moment, the Battle of Red Mountain, the first powering up of the Numidium using the Heart of Lorkhan, all of the events that did or didn't happen in and around that moment may or may not have been a Dragon Break. We've talked about that at length before. There's that. There's the Tiber Wars, the moment in which Tiber Septim claimed the Numidium and basically repowered it back up in order to use it to conquer much of Tamriel.
Run amok,
including what may have been a very specific Dragon Break in or around the city of Alinor, the Altmer city of Alinor, a siege created by the Numidium of the city, which resulted in the city surrendering within an hour of the attack. But the battle lasted from the Merithic era until long into the 5th era due to the Numidium's time-wrecking capabilities, which boggles my mind because Tiber Septim's attack on the city was not during the Merithic era. It doesn't make any sense. This would have been the end of the 2nd era.
It would have needed to start before his attack and then end after he's dead.
After anything we've done in the game at all.
Yeah.
Which would have been like, where are the Thalmor coming from then at this point? Like, what is going on here? The city is now pulled out of time and is constantly under siege for thousands of years. Like, this
is also a thing that you can totally interact with and people, sail to and from. It's so strange.
So strange. And the concepts of this get super wacky. This idea that he powered up the Numidium. He used it in these wars. He used maybe the soul of the Underking, who may have also been Zurin Arctus, who was his battle mage. But the Underking may also be the undead version of Zurin Arctus, who is in fact himself. Like these connections, it all gets super weird and wacky. We're not going to get into all the minutia of this because that could be its own episode. But I'm just going to
more written on uncertainty territory.
That is written uncertain. In fact, we may want to get into this in a future episode and just make it its own thing. But I'm just going to lay this out there that could be a Dragon Break. Everything in and around the Numidium, every time it's powered up, could be a Dragon Break. Like those all could be individual Dragon Breaks.
Yeah, the Numidium's messing with a lot of things.
Yes. And then the next Numidium thing that happened is considered the Warp in the West. The Warp in the West is the events of the 3rd era, 405. This is the end, I believe, of Daggerfall.
Yes. Yeah. It's basically the game version of how do we justify multiple endings.
Right. And so we've kind of gone all the way around this topic to get to probably why Dragon Breaks in the meta concept of Dragon Breaks were invented to begin with. And that was the writers got to Morrowind and they said, how do we create a sequel to a game like Daggerfall where there are multiple endings and the players could create whatever ending they wanted to. And now we have to make a game that chronologically happens after that and allow for any of those endings to be canon. And it's my understanding that the answer was, well, we have a time god and we have super amazing magical powers and a Numidium, which is basically a walking god that can potentially break time and do all sorts of amazing things. And the Underking and the King of Worms, Manny Marco, who ends up find out is Manny Marco and all these other things. We have all these powers coming together. What if time broke? And all of these things happened and didn't happen all at the same time. And then they could all be canon and not canon all at the same time. And then we can start writing this really wacky story called Morrowind, where things get even wackier. And they were like, let's do it.
And this is, people like to point out the fact that I struggle with the whole Michael Kirkbride bits, even though I like a lot of his setting for things. this seems very much like a Kirkbridean concept. I assume I mean, I don't directly know this. I would assume he definitely had a hand in the concept of Dragon Breaks. And yeah, big fan of that, actually. Like, that's one of the things. It's like, it's such a weird and unique concept to the series. And I generally don't like time stuff in fiction. It gets a little weird. And it starts getting just like, okay, well, you can just use this to fix any problem or whatever. And they have the potential to do that, but I don't feel they've overused it to the point that it gets lame, in my opinion. And they do, for what they have, they do a good job of kind of making it like, look, this concept is completely ridiculous, but at the same time, here's a way of grounding it into the lore of this that makes it actually like, hey, this gives a lot of credence to different things in the series. And it doesn't strike me as just like we are stuck. That's pretty much like what it got them out of. But at the same time, it's neat because then they kind of worked it into the series, and I think it fits really well. So this is one of the times when I can just outright praise Michael Kirkbride, who I assume had a hand in this, because I actually really like the idea of Dragon Breaks. They're weird, but they're not obnoxious to me, where it's just like, okay, what even is this? It's like, no, this is a very creative way of making something that shouldn't really make sense work within this fictional world type of deal.
Right. It does feel very Kirkbridean. Here, I want to read this section of the wiki because I like how weird and wacky this all sounds. So it's fairly long, so bear with me, but I just want to read it all because it's fun. So here we go. The warp in the West, sometimes referred to as the Miracle of Peace or the Second Numidium Effect, was the most recent and well-known of the Dragon Breaks. The break's origins trace back to the events of the Third Era 405, when an unknown affiliate of the Blades acquired the Totem of Tiber Septim and was given the choice as to who the totem would be delivered to. These are the endgame events, of course, right? Mm-hmm. After the reassembled Numidium was reunited with the Mentella and walked again, a Dragon Break was created, centering around the Blade's agent's choice and splitting the Iliac Bay region into 6, 7, or possibly 8 separate timelines, all occurring simultaneously. While the actions of the Blade's agent are believed to have taken place in the Third Era 405, the actual break apparently did not occur until 12 years later in the Third Era 417, more specifically the 10th of Frostfall, a day completely unknown and lost to all those who did not participate in the Numidium's battles. This day, side note, this date does not occur in the memories of anyone who was not there. The day just simply did not exist for most people. Despite some claims that the warp only lasted a day, other sources seem to imply that it may have subtly lasted much longer than it is said to have. When the break began, 6 Numidiums, let me say that again.
Yep.
6 Numidiums were created, as well as 6 totems, each being gifted to different kingdoms or individuals. Each of the 4 great warring kingdoms of the Iliac Bay, Sentinel, Wayrest, Daggerfall, and Orsinium, were gifted totems and waged war on each other with their respective Numidiums, creating battles of incomprehensibly epic proportions. I'm going to pause here because this is the thing that I was implying earlier when we were talking about the effects of Dragon Breaks on future stories. If the events of The Elder Scrolls 6 take place in and around these regions, then they're going to have to deal with this. The results of these Dragon Breaks, or this Dragon Break and whatever these events were, will actually have to be seen. Because this is the first time we will be in these areas post these events.
But they're incomprehensibly epic. We might not even know.
Who knows what this even looks like?
Yeah, I just love that descriptor where it's just like, look. It is so awesome. You just don't even worry about how great. This is just the coolest thing ever. Just picture whatever that is, and it's cooler than that.
Right.
It's just like,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, one Numidium was capable of sieging Alinor for 6 eras of the world.
Yeah.
This is 6 Numidiums all waging war against each other. Incomprehensible. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm just waiting. We're going to get to like 52 of them and have to start shuffling Numidiums like a deck of cards eventually into battles. Because I just love how over the top it gets.
Right. But this also
potentially gets in said timelines.
Yeah. But this also may also justify the need for hardware and software technology to advance to a point where they could actually design this game correctly.
From early stuff, I mean, it could just be PR spin as well, but it seemed like the technological limitations were originally one of the larger concerns about an Elder Scrolls 6 after Skyrim, from what I remember hearing. Now, they could, you could always say that, well, did they just say that because it's like, we don't want to work on that next, or we need more time, or whatever? Who knows? But I find all of Bethesda's products kind of lead into each other. You see something that starts in an Elder Scrolls game, well, suddenly now a version of that is in a Fallout game, and then vice versa. And now we've got like this whole new engine going into Starfield. So that's probably going to lead into, but then the lighting has been tested. The lighting edition engine was tested in
76.
Fallout 76.
Yeah.
So it's like each one kind of like is a step toward what they're doing next. So I'm wondering if, Starfield is the setting that they wanted to do just for something different. But what will we see in Starfield that we don't even know will relate to the next Fallout game or the next Elder Scrolls game?
It's going to be scale and vehicles. It's going to be cities that are at scale, like actual city scales. Total number of entities. So like having
back to Daggerfall days,
having hundreds of NPCs on a battlefield. And then that's another thing that having things like
cool
boats and siege engines and things like that on a battlefield, because they couldn't do that in Skyrim. And,
right.
And so so if you have like these different zones, like what if you have Sentinel and Wayrest and Daggerfall and Orsinium all battling each other with hundreds of people on the battlefields, and you're having to like work your way through that. Like we've never dealt with that in an Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah,
like that's the kind of stuff that I think that they're trying to build out in this is this like actually epic battling world full of
think you could be
stuff
onto something, especially because like in terms of scale and stuff that's changed in different directions, when they went from the sprite models with some 3D to 3D in games, that you can look back to the old games. Arena, the towns were, I mean, they're just straight up bigger than what you get in the later games in the series. And Daggerfall, they were just basically to scale, which is funny to think about. Like you go to Whiterun, which it's condensed down so you can get around Whiterun. Theoretically, what are there, like 11 houses that would house people in Whiterun?
It's a tiny village, but it's supposed to be a
village,
city.
and it's supposed to be this huge stronghold. It's like, yes, for scale and practicality reasons, like there are limitations of the game where, way back with Daggerfall, which, whether you've played it or not, the cities are okay. Yeah. There's 750,000 NPCs or something like that in Daggerfall. And it's like, oh, we're going to go to this village. Oh, this village has 48 different houses plus the shops and everything like that. It's like this crappy little like swamp village is bigger than like the biggest cities in Skyrim. It's like, in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't sync up, but you got to make the concessions for technological limitations of a video game. Whereas, if they can get past that going forward with new engines and new technology, it's like you'll start getting some really, incomprehensibly epic environments to go along with these battles, hopefully.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think there's a happy place in between, like a city with 100 like homes might be big enough for it to feel like an actual city. I don't need 1,000 homes. That seems too big, right?
Exactly. And that's kind of the problem where, people want different things out of these games. So I'm definitely much more of the fun/convenience of a lot of the things where it's like, oh, I want things to look cool, but like not at the expense of fun and practicality.
Right. The city.
Whereas that's not always the case when you have a place that is like, oh no, to walk across the city, it'll take you 45 real minutes. It's like, no, I don't want to do that.
That's too big. The city of Novigrad in The Witcher 3 is probably about the right size scale. Because it feels like a real size city, but it's also not so big that it would take you 45 minutes across the
Right, it's not unwieldy.
Right. So anyway, we've got to get through the rest of this because we've got you and I get together and we just have so many things we want to talk about. All right, so it says here, both the Underking and the King of Worms gained possession of the totem and mantella, the Underking using them to grant himself death, and the King of Worms using it to make himself into a god. Some sources state that the Blades agent in which the warp centered around may have been killed by the Numidium. However, the true fate of the agent is completely unknown. The break probably ended after the 6 Numidiums were either demolished by each other or the Underking, and resulted with the region being heavily transformed. The area, which had once been made up of over 44 petty kingdoms, now encompassed only 4 equally footed and well-organized kingdoms, with Wayrest controlling the eastern coast of the Iliac Bay, Orsinium controlling the Hrothgarian Mountains, Sentinel controlling the southern coast, and Daggerfall controlling the west. The Bay kingdoms remained part of the empire, and stability was brought to the Iliac Bay. While the King of Worms did temporarily become a god, this aspect of the dragon break was eventually fixed by the Gills of Akatosh, and the God of Worms was returned to his mortal state. Some claim that the warp in the west heralded the fall of the empire, and certain sources even seem to imply that in a separate timeline, the Septim dynasty may have even collapsed during the warp. So
weird.
There's also a lot to unpack there, and
there is.
It's nuts.
One thing that it's kind of funny because they it's just tossed in there real quick. Should we just mention real quick? Gills are the invisible female dragons in the series. Like they mention it real quick and like just as if everybody should know what that is.
Right.
Yes, Reader's Digest, who long didn't read. Yeah, they're the female dragons that are invisible to the eye, so that they
subgradients of Akatosh that repair time after dragon breaks. That's the
there you go, perfect.
Yeah, that's their job.
Yes.
Another
they're
like
the cleanup crew.
What?
It was just one of those things where it was just glossed over real quick. I was like, wow, we're just gonna just casually toss in Gills in the middle of it. It's like, all right, like
yeah, that's their job. They're just like they're the cleanup crew, and they're all female because that's not chauvinistic at all. Ladies, you do the cleanup stuff.
Well, maybe they just keep everything working. They do the retcons, Chris.
Oh, God, they do the retcon. They fix everything after all the men mess it up.
Yes, they're the real writers.
They're the real writers. So that's what we get with the warp in the West. That if this is not an actual dragon break, I don't know what is. Like,
yeah, that one I'm just of the mind. It's like, that's just
So I'm interested to see how this actually plays into the Elder Scrolls 6, because if we're going back to this part of the world, this seems like we're bringing the series. I know the series started with Arena, but I feel like the series really started with Daggerfall. Like that's the
going
core
through
of the lore.
I would agree. It's definitely Arena seems like the earth bones to the series to keep it even within lore, but it's like that was the structure, and they were taking up one. You could tell that the idea along the lines had shifted even in Arena, and it was like, okay, here's this game that we made that kind of became something different. This is a really good foundation for something, actually. Maybe we should just take what we've got as the foundation and really stretch this out, and that's where you got Daggerfall and continuing on down the line.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting because they could do a lot with this. They could, heck, they could go into this in so many different ways. They could look at the different possible outcomes. They could, what if the Thalmor were to tap into this dragon break and pull out the resolution that they actually wanted? What if they wanted Manny Marco to stay a god and they were able to manipulate that to occur.
Sure. There's all sorts of freaky directions it could go.
Yeah. And this is part of why I think we might get Manny Marco returning. Because
yeah, he's a fan favorite villain.
I mean, he is kind of the, like, he is the embodiment of the like the high elf like agenda in a way. Like the it's not bravado. The like the I'm putting myself above. We should be gods. I'm going to make myself a god. Like he is that. He's that from the beginning of the series. He achieves it. He falls back down. He seeks to achieve it again in Elder Scrolls Online. He gets real close. He's like, he's kind of a founding, like Crystal says, a core founding principle. Like he if the mortals in Tamriel are fighting against something, they're fighting against, like, he is one of the diametrically.
Yeah, he's the embodiment of basically everything they stand for as a Mer.
Right. And so he would represent that. Like, if anybody represents in a single person what the Thalmor are actually trying to achieve, maybe he's it.
Yeah.
Unless they're trying to achieve something outside of what he himself wants for himself. Unless they're shooting for something more broad and less about one single person.
Shooting for the moon.
Well, maybe they want something for all of them, and he wants something only for himself.
Almost certainly he wants something just for himself. He's not exactly an upstanding dude.
Well, sure. But that might be the distinction, is that they want something for all high elves and he wants something only for himself.
Right.
And so therefore they would come in conflict over that. But that doesn't mean that he wouldn't necessarily show up as a character in contrast.
Sure.
With that.
And I mean, they could theoretically have aligning objectives for a while. And then when it gets down to it, it's like, that's Manny Marco is not above betraying people once he gets what he wants. And now it's like, okay, well, my direction's changed, so screw you guys. Like,
or they screw him over,
or they screw him over.
They ride on his coattails until he's not useful anymore.
Exactly. Like that's, I mean, to be fair, that's actually more common than not for pretty much everybody in this series.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he would be a really interesting character to play that up on. And then you have the whole question of, like, is Talos really a god? And the reemergence of Talos to fight for his place, like descending back into Tamriel, like could be like, you talk about some sort of final conflict, like the summoning back of Tiber Septim. Like a Tiber Septim versus Manny Marco kind of thing, where you're not a chosen one. You're just like the person who's helping to bring about the end events in order to determine which direction things go. Like that could be a really cool thing. Anyway, okay, I'm going to leave that where it is. We got to go to the middle of the show. We got some patrons to thank, and then we got some Deadlands to talk about. So why don't we go do that?
The skies are marked with numberless sparks, each a fire, and every one a sign.
Yes, like an Oblivion, sort of. Absolutely. Thank you for the subscription, Venetian. Oh, man, we're getting all sorts of fun stuff going on here.
Also, that sound effect.
For some reason, my sound effects got all weird on Twitch, but
it's powering up the generator.
I'm gonna have to play with that later. But thank you to all of our patrons. That's what we do in the middle of the show. We thank our patrons, especially our tier 5 patrons, Daniel O and Noodle Al Dente. Thank you guys, and all 51. Holy crap, guys, we're over 50 patrons.
Your goal was 50.
We did it. We did it before the end of the month. It's only the 25th right now. We hit over 50 patrons. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Man, I couldn't do this without you guys. You guys are the best. Also, there's merch, you guys. There's t-shirts and stickers. Anybody tier 3 gets a sticker, and anybody tier 4 or higher gets t-shirts every 3 months. The longer you sub, the more t-shirts or stickers you get if you stay at the current tier that you are or move to a higher tier. And man, these things are awesome. I think you guys should go to patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast and look for the post. Scroll down until you get to the post with all the pictures of the t-shirts or the stickers. And you'll see that there are different Daedric symbols on each of the shirts with cool looking textures behind the symbols. They look really, really cool. I don't get one, but I feel like I need to order them for myself because they look freaking amazing. You guys get them, though, and they're limited edition. They will not go up on the regular store. They're just for you guys. And once they're gone, once they're off the Patreon for this season, then they're gone. So patrons now, if you sign up now, you'll be able to get them. Once they cycle off, they're off. And I've got 4 set up now, 1 for every quarter. Every 3 months, 1 goes up. And once that's off, it's gone. And then the next ones are going to go up. And then the next ones are going to go up. So get on there, get the ones that you want, and just go check them out. I think you guys are going to love them. Also, I've updated my schedule. I am now in the mornings during the week. I'm online working. So I'm up on the twitch.tv/robotsradio working on stuff. So I'm editing podcasts. I'm working on art stuff. I'm working on editing videos. I'm working on the stuff that I usually do, but now I'm doing it while I stream so that I can hang out with you guys. So I'm going to call you guys my coworkers. And we've had an awesome group. I've been doing it this last week, every single day during the week. I've been streaming from 8 or 8:30 Eastern on at least 3 or 4 hours every day. And just hanging out with you guys. And you guys are awesome. You're like my coworkers because I work at home. I've got like my dogs next to me. I've got a little pup cam. It's Lotus, you would love it. I've got my dogs next to me.
The pup cam's like such a great idea. I still got to figure out a ranged pup cam for myself. So I actually got to ask you what you used for a setup. So
what I did was I bought a little, like on Amazon, you can get like a little bendy little cameras.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Little bendy like USB cameras. And I got a little extender USB cable and I ran it over to my streaming computer. And I got one of those like little like stands. Little camera stands, and I actually just wrapped it around the stand, and I've got like the little camera just on a stand on the floor, and I've got a little puppy bed next to me that the pups like to like lay in while I work, and they'll just like hang out next to me in the bed.
Oh, that's kind of neat. Because I was going to say my puppy cam is just sharing my cam is in the background of me right now for the video. Boots is just like sideways asleep. So
so if Boots has like a spot, just put the camera right next.
Well, that's just it. There's a coffee table in front of her. I could theoretically put something over there just to
just run the camera over there. Put the little camera on this coffee table, like right where
we all know that pets are the real draw of our streams.
Yes, so I got a little pup cam, and then people hang out with me, and then if I get done with work, then I'll play some games or whatever. But I chat with you guys. I've even got stream avatars, so they've got little avatars to play with, and they can play games and things, and we all chat. And I mean, legitimately, these guys are my coworkers, and we had like a good dozen people at least, on average during the stream ish, and they're helping me do all sorts of stuff. We even redesigned the freaking you guys may have noticed on this episode at the beginning, the Robots Radio tagline at the beginning is different, and that was because they helped me redesign the tagline for the network. And we've been working on all sorts of stuff. It's awesome. You guys are awesome. Thanks for being my coworkers. Anyway, come hang out with us. Twitch.tv/robotsradio. And thanks again.
Somebody who's just like on the network as well as listens to other shows. I obviously love being able to do this with you, but like I listen to a bunch of the other shows from the stuff you run. I like the new tagline.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I was a fan. So
yeah, just press play. It means so many things. It works for so much. All right. Well, thank you again for everybody just being here, hanging out with me, and being part of the community, and also supporting the Patreon. You guys are the best. All right, let's move on with the rest of the show. We've got so much to talk about still.
Yes, you're entirely brilliant. Conquering madness and all that. Blah, 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 blah.
All right. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about Dragon Breaks. If you have any other thoughts about Dragon Breaks, if we missed anything that you think might count as a Dragon Break, even if it's like a little one, like a little micro break, something that you think might count, then please let us know. Jump on the Robots Radio Discord. There's an Elder Scrolls Lorecast channel on there. Send us your thoughts. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And let's move on to the Deadlands. So, Lotus, we're going back to the Deadlands, buddy. Videos, they've been doing some streams about this. The videos, the screenshots look amazing, of course. A bunch of freaking fire Daedra and
it's pretty stuff.
Yeah. What do you think about all this?
So I'm a big fan just because I want to see how everything ends. I'm almost done the Blackwood story. Finally, I jumped into it so that I could catch up. I had been doing other stuff and not really doing the story. I kind of like a better flow to it. So I kind of like doing everything just as like a binge or a binge into the new release. It doesn't have to all necessarily be out at once.
You want to know a secret?
Yeah.
I haven't dived into it yet.
Okay. There you go.
Here's the thing. I'm just now, because I've been so busy with so many. I've actually been working so much on so many of the podcasts and the network stuff. I've been updating so many things that every time I sit down to do like play a game or something, my brain goes, you could be working. You could be working. So I have spent so much of my time working instead of playing that I've had a hard time. Like every time I go to boot up the game to play over the last few months, my hand has gone to like, and instead I'm going to open Premiere Pro. Instead I'm going to open Photoshop, and I am working on something. So I forced myself to open up Elder Scrolls Online a few days ago, and I jumped back in. And so I've been finishing the previous expansion stuff that I never finished. So the Heart of Darkness stuff, and I'm just at the very end storyline of Heart of Darkness stuff, which is really cool. I really
like that. Yeah. I really like that. Actually, when you finish something, you should message me. I've talked to some people about it. I really like that, but there's one thing that I really didn't like at the very, very end of that some people have agreed with me on, and some people are like, oh, I didn't even notice that. I was like, that's why it's, interesting to hear the different sides, because I actually really, really like the way that season closed. I actually liked Greymoor as a whole more than I expected. Not the region. The vampires, werewolves aren't super of interest to me.
The Void
and I was surprised in the end. I was like, oh, this was actually really cool. I like this.
The Void stuff, I find it. I am probably 20 minutes from finishing it. Like I am at the end.
Yep.
And had I had 20 more minutes to play, I'm
you
like
probably would have
right there. I'm like right there. But yeah, the Void concept and the Void concept coming into Tamriel.
Yeah. Very cool.
Very cool. And that opens up a lot of questions for me and a lot of cool concepts. So I'm there and play it now, says Crystal. All right, I'll play while we talk. But I'm there. I'm wrapping all that stuff up. I should have done this earlier. I feel like I'm neglecting it, but none of our topics, we've had so many other things to cover this year on the show that and we don't like spoiling the current concept stuff. Yeah. So I haven't felt the need to have to cover it yet.
Exactly.
But yes, but I've been craving getting into this other concept, like all the new content. But I've been waiting to finish this other stuff, and I've had so many other things. So I'm ready to move on to these other things. I'm just like, I'm chomping at the bit. But yeah. Deadlands stuff I love. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we got lots of we've got the new zone, which is actually all Deadlands. I was really kind of surprised. I thought that was almost like a little misdirection way back when we were doing speculations. Mm-hmm. I was kind of convinced that there was going to be something that led to the Deadlands, but it really is. It's just straight up Deadlands. So it's like, all right, so it's the rest of the Deadlands. And apparently there's some interesting biome shifts, because it's not all exactly the same. It's similar, but the idea is, the Deadlands is chaos. Okay, lava's chaosy and there's a lot of destruction, but it's like, well, there's maelstroms and stuff like that. It doesn't have to just be Fireland. Like there's other horrible things that are causing change and destruction. But that definitely would be interesting. They did a very good job, at least with the Deadlands in the chapter portion, where you know what it looks like and it looks familiar, but the art team did a really good job designing the area too. So it looks really good when you're floating around the Deadlands and all of that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes storyline wise and stuff like that, because that's a big reason I play it as well as the majority of the community. And then there's a lot of quality of life and system changes that are coming to the game, which really good for everybody and incredible for console.
Yes, and that's your side of the world. So what things are you most excited about with that stuff?
So I love the idea of the Armory, which is basically a slightly different version of an add-on for PC called Dressing Room, where you can make layout or build like layouts. And it's pretty inclusive, where you will switch, if you're going into a dungeon and you're in a DPS setup and you're like, oh crap, we don't have a tank, or somebody fake tanked, theoretically you could put in the idea of, okay, well, I have my armory. If you have the armory assistant, you can just pop out the armory assistant, or it's like the other assistants, you just call them in or whatever. Or you can go to your house and you get a free one and you choose what setup you want and you can flip to it. So if you have a tank one, boop, you're a tank now. Like, and it re-gears you, it re-skills you. If you were a vampire, and because vampire is getting changed, I don't want to be a vampire anymore for this setup, it will cure your vampirism, or it'll give you vampirism. It's
Molig Ball is pissed.
Yeah, he's not a fan. His business is both booming and not booming. So it changes your CP now that there's so many thousands of it. It's got all these great things. Mundus Stone's the only thing that apparently they're working on. It doesn't do that. But, we're not going to go needlessly into details on it, but it's a cool system where you can just flip to different classes. For somebody like me who just plays largely one character, for the most part, I do everything on that one character. So not needing to respec myself if I want to do my usual tanking. Oh, well, I want to do a solo arena. One of the reasons I have not been practicing Battleshrim Hollows for my trifecta is because I'm so over needing to re-gear myself, then going to the shrine to change my attributes. Mm-hmm. Also, I have to respec my skills and remorph them. Then I need to change my CP. No, I don't want to do any of that. So instead, I'm just not going to run that thing.
Yeah.
Now it's like, boom, done, flipped. Love it.
Yep.
Same with PvP. Like, you can run a character and have two different builds with more. Oh, it's great. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. The thing I find about these, I mean, technically it's an MMO, but these large games is the housekeeping stuff is always the most daunting thing.
Yes.
That's the most off-putting thing about just jumping into these games and playing them. Yeah. Sometimes I'll look at a character and I'll go, it'd be fun to play that character again. And then I go, but I've jumped 100 CP from the last time I played that character. Now I'm gonna have to go figure out, okay, what do I want to rank up? Do I really have to spend the time to? And I'm gonna have to figure out the inventory.
So much easier.
Did this gear change since a year ago when I played the character? Do I need to pick out some different gear to wear? Yes. I just want to jump in and play my character.
Right.
Yeah.
And speaking of gear, which we were joking on Tales, we feel personally vindicated for this one because we never shut up about this. Me specifically, but everybody on the cast has their own chime-ins, and everybody in the community probably felt this pain to some degree. They are essentially knocking the RNG element of gear down so that you will eventually get everything you need.
Yes, I love
with
this.
A set timeline instead of, well, you get anything in this pool, good luck. And that's where you get people running VMA for their staff 500 times or whatever. Now, with this new smart loot system that's being implemented, the gear locations, so like if you can only get, you got to kill the end boss of a dungeon to get jewelry or a weapon. Okay, right. Cool. Right. That's still the case. However, now it will continue to knock off the items you own from your sticker book or your collections tab. It will remove that from the loot pool until your sticker book is full. So it basically has a built-in ability to start knocking your RNG down until your collection is full. Then once your collection's full, it's back to random. But who cares at that point? Because if you have everything, you can just reconstruct it using the collection system. So you have a timeline for collecting all your crap, which is awesome. And I love it because I hate RNG. So yes.
That is a wonderful addition. Yeah, there's so many good additions here.
So much quality of life stuff just to make the game more enjoyable and less tedious, which most things like this lean into the grind. One thing, there's a lot of stuff to grind in ESO, but honestly, grind has never been something I've felt really is a big thing with this game, unless you're choosing to do it.
Right. And that's the thing is there's so much to do in the game. They don't need to have artificial grind in order to pad out the time that you're spending in the game.
No, there's a lot to do in this game.
There's a lot to do. You're not going to run out of stuff to do that you want to do. So you might as well reduce the things that you don't want to do so that you can still focus on the things you do want to do, because there's plenty to do. Right. And that's what's wonderful about this. And I think it is really a wonderful addition. I also like and I'm a graphics snob. I love having my PC settings set at like maximum. I love, they're adding in update 32, they're adding DLAA. So this is for NVIDIA cards. Do you know about this?
I've heard about this, but I didn't actually look too much into it. But I've just heard this talked about, so this will be interesting.
This is anti-aliasing, so this is like reducing the jaggies using AI on NVIDIA cards, and this is a new way of doing it. And I'm not going to get into the technical details, but it's a higher level of anti-aliasing. So it's kind of like a smarter way to do it using the AI on the card in order to do this. And this is actually one of the first games that's going to come out to do it. It works really well for older engines like the one this runs on, to make it look updated and to work even better. And the other thing I noticed booting back in this game for the first time in a while was that the one of the settings for what's it called? The shadows in the games, what's it called? When you have like two objects that are really close to each other, and because where they butt up next to each other creates like a little shadow in between.
Oh, okay. I know what you mean.
There's a word for that.
Specific name?
There's a name for that. I forget the name for it. It's fallen out of my brain right now. But there's updated settings for that as well. So that got increased also. And so you can increase the option for that if you have, I believe it's an NVIDIA setting for that as well. So neat. Yeah, so they're still increasing the options. So not only did they increase, the way this looks on current gen systems, PS5s and Series X's and things like that, but if you're a PC player and you have the hardware to run it, they're still increasing the quality of the game engine for your systems as well, which is super appealing for me, because I love making this thing look as nice and crunchy as I could make it look. So so I'm excited about that as well. So I can't wait to try that out. And I just love looking at the screens and going, yeah, look at that. There's no jaggies on that screen.
Yep.
And
then there's obviously just lots and lots of little technical tweaks. We'll see. Again, I don't really have an opinion on those until they hit the live server and have gone through all their testing. But crits being changed, which some people are okay. Spoiler alert to anybody who looks at the forums. Everybody always thinks everything is the patch that destroys DPS, and
every time.
Every time.
Every time.
This one definitely seems a little weird, so I'll be curious to see how it plays out. But like, there's being a hard crit ceiling being put on, but then proc sets are being brought into critting again, and there's lots to this update, which I'll be curious to see once it lands, whether it lands good or whether it lands and it's just like, ugh, no, just change that. But that's all technical stuff that kind of remains to be seen. I'm much more interested in the features and then dealing with stuff and potentially finding ways to use it to our advantage once that stuff hits live, like, crit or the change to battlegrounds, which I personally am not a fan of, where it's all team deathmatch for a time being. I don't know if you've heard about this one. They've removed all other modes. It's actually it started this week because nobody plays hypothetical nobody.
Comparatively,
basically nobody plays objectives in any game mode in Battlegrounds. Everybody just treats everything like team deathmatch. They were like, God. Okay, fine, everything's just team deathmatch to see if this is better or worse.
I play objectives. Oh,
so
that's why I always lose.
So my thing is, I usually win because I do play the objectives. And to be fair, I don't really like team deathmatch that much as a person who mains a tank. Like, I kill with a means to an end in the game mode. Yeah. So my thing is usually I like grouping with 3 friends who, spoiler alert, rarely play the objective. And I'm like, good, you guys just play team deathmatch on the other 2 teams, murder everybody. I'm going to just go grab these objectives real quick. And look, we won 5-0, like, because nobody's doing any objectives except me. And if they're killing everybody, who the hell is going to stop me from doing the objectives? So like, I get it, but I don't personally like this change. It'll, don't know. I'm not the biggest Battlegrounds fan to begin with, so it doesn't really, I don't know, but something of note, because it's been a hot button issue in the community. A lot of people have had lots to say.
I bet they looked at the stats and were like, how many of these objective matches do the winners, are they different from the team that got the most amount of kills? You know, like,
and it is just temporary. They've said that it's a testing thing. They've been doing, to be fair, they've been doing PvP testing of all sorts of weird crap for over a year now. And it's because PvP is a weird beast in this game.
It is.
Most people don't want anything to do with it. And it causes a lot of influence to PvE because they're balanced together, not separately. So they influence each other, and it's staggering how few people play PvP in the grand scheme of things compared to PvE. So it's like, they're working on different things, but then, you know, it's a weird situation with the PvP. So
yeah, that's interesting. Jumping back in, I feel like I have a moderately tweaked like character. Like, I don't have a super like setup main character for PvE.
Yep.
But going through the main quest content, like, I just blow things apart. Like, and I do, like, I reset up my character recently to go back to a Stamblade and just bought whatever gear I could buy.
Sure.
And I'm blowing up bosses almost before they finish their first rotation through like each battle.
Yep.
And I'm going like, am I supposed to be killing it this fast? And this isn't like a humble brag. This
is literally like, what happened?
This
How
is
did
like,
I get so powerful?
Yeah, like, why is my character so powerful? And if I were to group up and do like a hard dungeon, because I haven't done one again for a while, would I feel overpowered or not?
I know exactly what you mean. And it's why, like, I joke about, like, you know, a lot of things. Like, I love collecting achievements, but sometimes it's about finding a smart way to do something rather than just, well, oh, look how good I am. I still say, if you're struggling with arenas, like the solo arenas, like VMA or Vatashram Hollows, there's a build. It's an Alcast build, and you can tweak it like I did very minimally. It's basically just, I have my Flawless Conquer and stuff, and I don't main a DPS. Like, that's not my gimmick. Like, I don't really do outrageous damage. I just like being durable. And Flawless Conquer is relatively, like, a lot of people strive to get that, and that's basically doing the entire arena without dying.
Yeah.
And it's not so much like, oh, look how good I got to do this. It's, I found a really good method of doing this. And it's like, oh, if you're a werewolf and you put you use these sets, you have crazy health regen. So if you screw up, it gives you this huge buffer zone that doesn't get you killed.
Right.
So it's like, okay, that's not me getting, I'd like to think I improved somewhat, but it's like, that was more trying to find something to work with me rather than like, oh, well, I need to get really, really good at this specific setup that I have.
Training wheels set.
Exactly. Kind of, it really is a training wheels set. And it's great if you just need to get some practice in and then wean yourself off it to something else if you want to start going for fast or score or whatever.
Right. But like this character, I'm not necessarily super survivable, although my health doesn't go down very much in these fights. But yeah, like I don't even have like much of a matching, like I guess I have matching sets of things, but they're not like fully upgraded and they're not like, heck, I don't even have like a monster set helmet shoulders that match. Like, it's not optimized. What I'm saying is that like the set is not optimized. And yet I feel like I'm just totally blowing through everything. And like, I can like 2-hit like just junk mobs and just blow them apart.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why is this so easy? Is it supposed to be like this? And it just feels weird, I think.
No, I know exactly what you mean. And so it happened back a ways, but when the new CP system came out and everybody was freaking out about that because again, something changed. Because at first people were like, oh, we're going to be able to hit as hard doing this and blah, blah, blah. And then people figured out what they're doing with that. But as a side effect, which they did kind of actually have to rein back in a little bit, the first thing that happened, which started making things a lot easier for people, was, wow, our base health is way higher than it was. It's like, okay, we're all just de facto a ton more durable. Like,
yeah. I can beeline it through some of the dungeons, and like I was running through Dwemer structures,
right?
And like the traps are hitting me, and I'll see like 1,000 damage, and my health bar goes tink, and like
exactly
a little itty bit of health comes off, and I'm like, I don't remember that being the case before.
Exactly. So it's like, it's just going to take that. That's the type of stuff that I always like to let people who like crunching numbers mess with on the PTS, have lots of fun with it.
Yeah.
Do your thing, make your guides, whatever. And then when it hits live, I figure out, okay, until the next time they screw with stuff, how is my game going to play? And that's just kind of, I'm very much of a wait and see approach when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It definitely feels different. And this is just, me going a few months without jumping in and having all of those things catch up with me and just going like, well, this feels different now. I feel like I haven't done anything. And yet all of a sudden my character feels more powerful.
Right.
What happened? But also makes me go like, should I change? What if I change? What if I break this? Like, I also don't understand why I'm so powerful right now. I could just swap out something and all of a sudden feel less powerful.
Yeah.
Like,
now am I horrible? Like,
what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Am I procking crits? Is that why I'm doing so much damage? Or am I like, what part of this is working so well? I don't even know. I hope I don't mess this up. So yeah, anyway, but I guess that's for a later discussion. But this has been fun catching up on some ESO stuff. I'm happy to. I'm excited to jump back in and do this some more. I've been kind of itching for this kind of thing. I'm thinking about doing some more of those. Remember when I was playing through the story bits and doing some of those streams and releasing those as bonus episodes? I've been thinking about doing that again. If you guys want me to do that again, let me know. I know people were enjoying those.
If you haven't done them already, I definitely recommend the new dungeons. They're both super fun, with the Dreadseller having a wacky last boss.
Yeah, I haven't done any of those, so it'd be fun to jump into those. And of course, we've got the guild, so it'd be neat to jump in with some of you guys and do some dungeons together. So we could always do that as well. So that'd be fun. But we got to wrap up the show, though. It's time to get going. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's been fun to see, especially you guys in the chat on the weekend. And thank you for those of you waiting for the episode, for your patience on this. I can't always predict, my brain trying to kill me with migraines, but I do appreciate your patience on this. And Lotus, you have anything else you want to share about stuff going on?
So, you can find me in my usual places, Lotus of Doom, wherever I have anything. But I guess we can announce this for the first time because it's starting to get close. We're going to be hyping it up. I'll have lots more information to come. But the Extra Life Marathon that I like to do every year to support, the Boston Children's Hospitals, or any hospital in the Children's Miracle Network this year. I just happened to choose Boston because I know that they're having a bit of a issue with overpopulation due to COVID, which is something that if I can provide any funds to help with, I would love to. But it looks like the current plan, which is in the making, is going to be October 23rd. Things are going to kick off. And we're going to relay it with my team, the Elder Heroes. For anybody who doesn't know, we started our own team, kind of.
It sounds like a bunch of old veterans.
Hey, whatever. We are old.
It sounds like World War II vets. We're the older veterans
of the Elder Heroes.
The Elder Heroes who served during 1943 and 44.
So we that's our charity team. It's not all Elder Scrolls stuff. That was just how me and my buddy started it. But there's other stuff. Some people are going to be playing New World and other games and stuff like that. It's just kind of like a hub for people to if you want to have people to bounce ideas off and stuff like that. And you're doing any charity, it doesn't need to be Extra Life.
Cool.
That's why we were kind of formed, and the UESP is part of it. So it's Tales of Tamriel. It's kind of, I kind of like the weird joint thing between Lorecast and Tales of Tamriel. So by default, both of these podcasts are included. But we've got that whole thing set up. My marathon specifically starts October 23rd, and it's going to extend kind of like I've done the last couple of years. For a long time, I did 24 hours. Well, now with relay stuff, it's probably going to be me for 20 hours. Then ARC is going to take the torch from me, go for several more hours. Then another teammate, Slick Rick 2345, will be picking up for the entire rest of the weekend. So the idea is to actually have between all of us go the entire 48 hours plus of the weekend.
Wow.
Just one extended stream for charity. So keep your eyes peeled. We have some surprises and giveaways that we will be announcing. So stay tuned to that. Zos specifically with Elder Scrolls has provided some excellent stuff, and maybe more directly involved with some exciting stuff coming up that hopefully I can talk about very soon.
Nice. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, that's just a month away. So coming up soon.
Yeah, coming up about a month.
Yeah, we'll remind you guys as it gets closer, and it's always fun to tune in. And Lotus, if you enjoy watching Lotus suffer, then you're gonna have a good time.
Once I start getting sleep deprived, actually, the first year that you did the Lorecast, you actually gave me a level of torture that somebody actually donated to make it stop. When you donated to the charity so that I would play for an hour in first person, and somebody else donated to make me stop because they were getting motion sickness watching me PvP in first person.
Oh God, it was terrible. You got stuck in like a corner with like a bunch of mobs on top of you.
We were doing the Imperial Simulacrum.
I remember this.
At the same time that we were getting jumped by Daggerfall Covenant gankers, and like there was a horde of us, and I'm just getting hurled all over the place, and people were like, "Good God, I can't see."
Yeah, at some point you were just you know what happens in a video game when you get like crammed up against a wall or other people's textures, and it was just like textures in front of your face, and then all of a sudden you're getting thrown across the room, and then more textures in your face, and you couldn't. It was manageable in third person because you could see where you were, but in first person you can tell what the crap is going on. It was great. It was good. That was good times. You're gonna have to have another first person goal set up. Oh, people will donate to that, man. That's good stuff.
Or donate to counter it, which we found out. Hey, whatever works.
Whatever works. As long as you get that money.
Yeah, it all goes to a great cause.
Yep. So. Yeah, and even if you get a little bit of vomit along the way, it goes to a great cause.
That's why I'll take video game abuse for a good cause.
Of course, absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Awesome stuff. I've got all my regular stuff going on, robotsradio.net for all the podcast stuff. Working on lots of shows with some really cool people, and we talked in the pre-show about some of our community talking about doing that Elder Scrolls true crime show concept that we joked about previously. I would love to see that become a real thing. Lotus and I don't have time to do it, but if you guys in the community want to make that real,
I also feel like other people could do it much better than I could.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah. But man, if you guys jump into our Discord, Robots Radio Discord, and start chatting with some other people, maybe you guys could put a team together and make that a real thing, because that would be amazing. Me, says T-Rex in chat. I'm serious. You guys get a team together, start chatting about it. See if you can put a group of you guys together and make that a real thing. That would be amazing. I bet people would listen to it. But anyway, yeah, you guys know where to get me and reach my stuff. And please come hang out with me in the mornings. I'd love for you to be one of my coworkers and come chat with me while I work on stuff. And I'm always happy to answer questions about content creation, podcasting, any of that stuff. I'd love to just share some free advice and help you get started with your own shows and things like that too. So, all right, well, we got to get going. Have a good rest of the weekend or your week or whatever you've got going on. And we'll talk to you guys next time. All right, everybody. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. If you have something you'd like to contribute to the show, please reach out to us at elderscrollslorecast@gmail.com or on Twitter @ESO Lorecast. I really appreciate you listening, and I'd love to hear from you soon.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.